Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Kristi Karelson. I'm the ambassador of Estonia in Hungary, but also accredited to Serbia, Montenegro, North Macedonia, and Bosnia-Herzegovina. So it's my pleasure to welcome you all here today at the seminar about residency, organized by my embassy, the E-Residency team in Estonia, and the consultancy company called One Office. We are very glad that we have seen quite good interest towards this event, and hope that some of you will become residents soon after this seminar. Estonia was the first country in the world who actually launched a program like that in 2014. But this didn't, of course, happen like that, but it was rather a next step in the build-up of a digital society that started already in the mid-1990s. Our then young and very ambitious new generation government established a new generation governance that has gained a lot of attention in the world since then. I can proudly say that Estonia has been a true pioneer in the sphere of digital development up until now. No need to mention that the current pandemic that has put so many limits to the movement of people hugely increased interest towards and use of online tools and solutions, especially for the business. We Estonians were quite confident in this situation, as so many things in our lives had been done online anyway. The E-Residency program has proved to be very popular since its launch. Today, there are around 80,000 Estonian residents globally in literally almost all the countries. We count that they have created some 57 million euros direct revenue for the Republic of Estonia. And the program has already gained some popularity also in the Western Balkan countries. And the biggest number, 360 residents currently, are based in Serbia. We hope that today's seminar will be useful and encourages to think about the opportunities the program is open for you. For your appetite, I just mentioned that services like registering a company in half an hour, or signing documents and declarations online and hassle-free are available for e-residents in Estonia. Today, we will have 3 speakers. First, Jan Heinso from the E-Residency team will introduce you to the program, its background content, and will also give a broader insight to the e-governance in Estonia. After that, Nevena Shovranic from Serbia will speak about her experience as an e-resident of Estonia. And finally, Mr. Tõnis Jõgeva from One Office will give you an overview of some more practical aspects of the e-residency and also doing business in Estonia, like what the e-residency is, what it's not, how is it to establish a company, etc. I now encourage everybody to share your questions and comments in the Q&A session below, not in the chat, Q&A, and we will pick, after all the speakers have already had their presentations, we will pick the questions from there and try to answer those. Stay awake, because at some point you will also get the small poll to reply, so you can also participate actively. Without further ado, I would now like to invite Mr. Jan Heinso to kick off the seminar and start with some broader insight to the program. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam Ambassador. My name is Jan Heinso. I'm the head of new markets at the E-Residency team in Estonia. So today I would like to show you a presentation about E-Residency. Let me share my screen. So hopefully my screen is now visible. So my presentation is about E-Residency and how it helps to do business without borders. So without further ado, I would like to tell you a couple of words about Estonia. I guess you all know where Estonia is. It is a Nordic country with Scandinavian business culture. Also, it is a Baltic country. It has a world-class business environment that I will tell you a little bit more about in a couple of slides. It is the home of global startups, home of unicorns such as Skype. And I will show you actually that we have more than one unicorn. And E-Estonia, the world's first and most advanced digital society. So about the world-class business environment. First of all, we pride ourselves in being the most competitive tax system in the world among OECD countries. So Tax Foundation has ranked us already actually for the 7th year in a row in 2020 as the most competitive tax system. And in a couple of minutes you will find out why. European Commission has also ranked us #1 in terms of Digital Economy and Society Index in the Digital Public Services and e-government section. So it basically takes only 20 minutes to establish a company. You can establish and manage your company fully online, remotely, from wherever you are, 24/7. So one of the highlights of the tax system is that we have 0% corporate income tax on any reinvested or retained profits. You don't even have to reinvest them as long as you keep them in your company and you don't take dividends. I will show you a little bit more about what the taxes are. But yes, there is easy access to EU and Scandinavian markets. So I think that especially we can serve as a bridge to Scandinavian markets, to entrepreneurs from the Balkan countries, and basically no bureaucracy. So the bureaucracy has been taken to a bare minimum because all of the services are online and all of the databases actually communicate between each other. So about the unicorns, as I mentioned, Skype, there is Bolt, Pipedrive, company previously called TransferWise is now called Wise. So this is a fintech company which can provide you as e-residents with tailor-made banking solutions. So I'm sure that very many of you are wondering how will business banking look like when you become an e-resident and open a company in a different country than your own home country. So fintech solutions are there to help you, and we can talk a little bit more about that later. Pipedrive is a CRM, so many of you are using it actually, I'm sure. Bolt, this is a ride-sharing and taxi company. And Skype, well, you know Skype. Skype was the solution before Zoom and Teams and all of these solutions came to play. And of course, Playtech, it is a online gaming platform, software provider, quite the global leader in that. The simple and favorable tax system. I think that we can start with the highlights from the corporate income part. So corporate income tax on retained profits, 0%. If you take dividends, then of course there is a tax. It is 20%. It is also possible to apply the rate of 14% if you take dividends regularly, but this is a little bit more complicated, so I will not explain it now. So the normal rate is 20%. So before you take your dividends, you don't have to pay the corporate income tax. Every year, you don't have to worry about that. And after that, in Estonia, according to Estonian rules, you also don't have to pay the personal income tax. If you took the dividends, then this is it, 20%. Sales tax is 20%. If sales exceed 40,000 euros per year, then you start to be eligible to pay VAT tax. Payroll. So this is this is the tax that is applied to salaries. Personal income tax 20%. This is the part basically that the person pays. And social security tax. This is the part that the the employer, the company pays from the salary. And the lowest government debt in Europe means that we are not right now under any pressure to raise the taxes. The state budget is balanced, so the government debt will remain probably the lowest for the foreseeable future. And all of the taxes are business friendly and easily administrable. So we have really good feedback from not only Latvian, but also entrepreneurs from the Balkan countries. So what is E-Estonia? E-Estonia means that 98% of companies are established online since 2009. 99% of banking, of course. Well, I think that you do your banking online also in the Balkans. 95% of tax declarations are filed online, so there is basically no reason to get out of your home in order to run business and declare all the taxes in Estonia. And since we introduced e-residency in the year in December 2014, so Estonian e-services have been available to everyone in the world. So basically all of these advantages that we have used already for more than 10 years, most of them already for 20 years, we have now opened to the global community. Maybe a couple of principles that will help you to understand what is E-Estonia also. One only principle. It means that your data, the institutions will ask your data once. The government institutions can ask it once, and then they can ask each other. So you don't have to give your information, take a piece of paper from one institution to another. It means that it eliminates most of the bureaucracy already, because you don't have to take information from one place to another. But still, the citizens and the residents own the data. So you have told the data to an institution, and in the framework of its mandate, it can actually give the information to another institution. However, you will always be able to check who has checked your data, who has used your data or taken a look at your data from the ledger. You log in and you check. So anytime that you see that I'm not sure if I know why this data was checked or used, then you can file a request. Why was it? And if you're not satisfied with the answer, then it will be a problem for whoever checked the data without proper authority. So this basically never happens, because the citizens own their data and they can always see who has checked. Estonians trust e-solutions. So everything was leading to e-solutions already before e-solutions were introduced. And yes, 99% of the services are online. So first they are digital, and then maybe they will be physical if necessary, but first digital. This is our office, in fact. Our former managing director on the right with Kersti Kaljulaid, President of the Republic of Estonia. And well, what can we not do online? So there remains only basically one thing, or two sides of this. One thing is marriage and divorce. So it isn't because technically it's more difficult somehow, but it is because it's such a decision that you have to think about it before you just press enter and sign digitally. It's best that this is not done online. Yeah, this is not going to be a history lesson, but already from the 1990s, Estonia was pioneering e-governance as well as online banking. And in the year 2000, we had two databases which we put online already, e-tax and population registry. And then in 2001, we decided to connect the banking, e-tax board, and e-population registry with this X-Road. This is a platform that we still use for connecting all kinds of databases in Estonia to each other. We have more than 1,000 databases now that are talking to each other on the X-Road. Digital ID. So it means that in 2001, we decided that everyone has to have access to this X-Road and to all this data. So we decided that it's easiest to do with a chip card. So the same card is still used basically until today, 20 years later. And e-residents get this digital ID. However, when you become an e-resident, you can actually switch to the smart ID on your phone. So that you can put your digital ID safely in your drawer or your wallet, but you can use the services actually on your mobile phone without taking out the digital ID and use it on your computer. So since then, the most important thing, I think I could skip to online company registration in 2009. This is why we mainly established e-residency. 2014, e-residency. So now 3,000 digital services, more than that. Half of them are public services, half of them are private services, are available. So all of these services are available to both citizens in Estonia as well as e-residents. What do all of these people have in common, except that I can see that they are mostly, almost all of them are smiling. So all of these smiling people are actually e-residents. So even the Pope, for example, or the former Prime Minister of Japan, Shinzo Abe, or Bill Gates, and of course all of the e-residents who you can see are using this e-residency are Emre's team from Turkey and Xenia from Russia and the others. So this is the e-residency kit. This is what you receive when you apply for e-residency. You receive an ID card and a card reader, and of course all of the instructions. So what is it? E-residency is a government-issued digital identity. It is not just an ID card, but it provides you an Estonian ID card together with your digital identity. So with e-residency, you can establish a location-independent EU company, access all of the Estonian e-services, and run your business fully remotely. You can do that from home, but you can also become a digital nomad and live wherever you are. You can choose your place and run your business even on the road. Who? So for whom is it? Location independent and highly mobile entrepreneurs, of course. Startup founders aiming to go global. All kinds of freelance professionals, be it the creative industry or the IT professionals. Freelance professionals are, it is very popular among freelance professionals. Entrepreneurs going for new markets, definitely. So you open a company in Estonia, for example, to go to Scandinavian markets or EU markets or global markets if you want to do it more easily than from home, from your home country. And remote top management of Estonian subsidiaries. So if you are an investor, you open, for example, a factory in Estonia, it means that you can top manage your company yourself and only hire the middle management in Estonia. So that is also one of the reasons why many people have become e-residents. And why? Well, basically, I think that we have already went through why, but the residency makes Estonia, all in all, the easiest place to start and manage a global business fully online. Trusted, business-friendly jurisdiction, one of the most business-friendly, in fact, in the world. Full range of Estonian e-services for business. Conduct banking, declare taxes online. Legally binding digital signature. So even if you don't do business through an Estonian company, you can just use it to give legally binding digital signatures. So that is also one of the use cases. and of course the community of like-minded people. So I'm sure that today Nevena will tell more about the community of e-residents. Today, we already have 80,000 e-residents from 174 countries. This milestone we just reached this week. And 16,500 companies have been established by e-residents and are being run by e-residents remotely. A couple of testimonials. I think that we will have a real story also today from Nevena, but also a couple of testimonials. So people in Estonia can benefit from the most advanced digital society in the world, and now people outside of Estonia can take advantage of the first transnational digital identity, e-residency. And Andriy from Ukraine said, half jokingly, of course, that true business class is when you don't need to travel at all to do business worldwide. And today, of course, this has been the case for most of us, because we can't really travel as much as we would like to. So it is not just convenient not to travel, but right now it is also gives you new opportunities when you can't really travel as much as you want. So I'm approaching the end of my presentation, but just a couple of words about the service providers on our marketplace. So you can find the trusted service provider for your company. Basically, well, you can see one office is providing services, as you can see on this illustration. You can compare easy solutions for remote business administration. You can compare all the rates, how much it costs, and so on. Find tax and legal experts, accountants, payment providers, virtual office services, and more. And also Estonian government e-services you can find from our website, the marketplace. And in the new marketplace, you can filter and compare the companies by services offered and company type and prices. But I can tell you that one office is one of the most universal ones who probably provides most of these services that I mentioned before. Banking. So I'm sure that many of you are wondering how the banking will work. So TransferWise, and which is now called Wise, is the most popular solution, but there is also Payoneer, Paysera, and Stripe, which are also have provided tailor-made solutions for banking needs of e-residents. So these are our partners. These are the fintech providers that open banking accounts for e-residents most eagerly. And the second one is, of course, banks in Estonia. So LHV Bank is the one that probably you have the best chance with. But fintech companies, I think that you have a better chance still than with any traditional bank. And of course, banks in other EU countries. This is also an option. You can use for your Estonian companies' banking needs. You can also use banks in other EU or European Economic Area banks. So you can find out all that you need from the business guide, from all the resources on our knowledge base, the blog, and our website. So everything you need, you can find out. But you can also join the next webinar, which is from our team. It means how to become an e-resident and all you need to know about starting your company in Estonia with e-residency. This is something a little bit different than this webinar. And if you have any questions, please write to me and to my team, as well as to the Estonian embassy in Budapest, of course. So thank you very much. This is it from me, and I think that mostly we will go through the questions and answers after all of the presentations. So now I will give over to the next speaker.
Thank you, Jan. I would now like to invite Nevena Sogranic to share her experience as an e-resident from 2019.
Thank you, Ambassador. Your pronunciation was amazing. My last name. Hello, everyone. I'm Nevena Sogranic, and I'm coming from Serbia. I've been a E-resident since 2019, and I'm here today to share my experience with you about working as an E-resident. To share my experience, I'm gonna need to give you some background on the company I've founded so you can understand better how it fit my needs. I started Omnes Group in 2015 from Serbia, and it was registered as a recruitment agency in tech. We are specialized in recruiting for tech companies and growing tech teams. But then in 2019, it happened that we've started working across different markets, including a large towards Estonia as a good way to grow our business. One of the main things to understand when it comes to Omnes is that it's more than a recruitment agency. Actually, we worked with many founders that have been struggling with finding a good fit for their team because their tech stack, and I'm sure there is a lot of my colleagues here that understand what I'm talking about. Some of the projects and the products they're building are asking for a really complicated tech stack and programming languages that are not so easy to find. So working with these founders, we've started working on a lot of remote positions, which means that at some point, our team from Serbia, with a company registered in Estonia, was looking for people all around the world for companies in the US, that is mainly California. And this is why I love what I love about E-residency. Actually, it just eliminates the borders. And working remotely for 2 years now, it's been a great example on how everything can work smoothly when you have a government that really helps their entrepreneurs build amazing businesses with allowing them to eliminate bureaucracy and work fully automated online. What was great about working remotely in the past few years was actually the fact that I haven't had a need to visit any of the offices, and I've been able to do everything online, including assigning my documents and contracts that have been popping up along the way. As for the how the registration went itself, and I'm sure a lot of you have questions around this, especially during the pandemics. I've been I signed up for my E-residency in 20 minutes, as Jan said. It takes an online form that you fill out, and there's a small fee you pay for getting your ID. And once you pick up your ID from the embassy, you can start registering your company with some of the service providers based in Estonia that are able to help you out get a virtual address. And also most of them provide bookkeeping services, which is really important for you until you learn a bit more about the taxation and how to run your business fully online. Because I've been getting a lot of questions since we started talking about the webinar about how it works during the pandemic. You can actually, most of the entrepreneurs interested in setting up an entity in Estonia during this time, it's still doable. You can still visit Budapest and get your ID with a permit, because it's a business travel. So we sorted that out. You can go to Budapest to get your ID. As for the other benefits I've experienced as an entrepreneur working working remotely, I've been just the credibility of having a EU registered company. It helps you grow your business differently. And as someone mentioned, yes, it opens your doors to some other markets where you haven't been able maybe to get recognized as an entrepreneur or as a company. So registering a company outside the borders of your own country opens you new doors. So I assume that E-Residency helped Omnes grew its potential. As well as I've been traveling a lot, and with a small team I've been traveling a lot, and working remotely was really important to me. So being able to do everything online was a major benefit for us. There are also other benefits that I find really important, such as being able to digitally sign my documents. I've been working, they have developed really good softwares that enable me to encrypt and send my documents securely, which I think is really important to my tech colleagues from Serbia as well. And being able to also use any of the payment processors or service providers online. Being a e-resident is the community. The community is really welcoming, and I've been feeling like a part of I've been feeling Estonian since I've joined this community, working with e-residency. So I do encourage you to look over the benefits and ask more questions about the taxation, so you can learn well if it fits your needs. But I do encourage freelancers to look at the residency as a point as a good alternative to their businesses.
So thank you, Nevena. At this point, I would once more encourage everybody to share their questions and comments in the Q&A section, and we will pick them after all the presentations have been heard. Also, as mentioned previously, I think that now we will open our little poll, which will briefly appear on your screens, or has already appeared. So you don't have to do anything else than just press yes or no, or check yes or no, and that's all. With this, I would also add to what Nevena already said about picking up the cards, because this is so separate issue from the content of all the e-residency, that yes, you normally apply for the card online. It's done only online. You have to pick it up in one of our embassies. For you, it's probably Budapest, but you can always choose whatever location you want for pickup. It doesn't have to be Budapest. But coming to Hungary currently, yes, indeed, it's allowed with this confirmation from the embassy that your e-residency card is waiting for you, the permission from the Hungarian police. But if you are at that point already, of course, the embassy will give you advice about that. So without further ado, I would now invite Mr. Tõnis Jõgeva to speak about more practical issues that are of your interest, definitely about taxation, setting up company, etc. So please, Tõnis.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for giving their take on e-residency and their experience. I really appreciate it. Hopefully Nevena will contact me separately as well if she has any questions about Estonia and the company, and also all of the listeners. I already see your questions. The basic thing is that the whole reason we're doing this webinar for you is that you can open the company in Estonia, you can get the e-residency card, and you can do your business outside of Estonia as well. It's a legal entity that is allowed to trade or provide services around the world. But of course, if you're doing business in some other country, you do have to know the regulations of those countries as well, or at least be aware of those regulations. But yes, okay, let me go into the details, how the company formation actually happens and what should be part of your research. Just a moment, I'll share my screen. I hope you can all see the slides. So I'll start. This is the headline. It's a rather long headline, but I just want to go over the legal and tax aspects of opening the company and also running it. And as you can see, it's going to be paperless, so you don't have to print out any papers to manage and create your Estonian company. A little bit about One Office. We actually operate in 6 countries, originating from Estonia. So the headquarters is in Estonia, and currently I'm at the Tallinn head office. We have around 40 specialists, but of course we sometimes hire, sometimes people leave, but around 40 specialists over the years we have had. But the clients, well, over 4,000 companies as our clients, and they are from 70 different countries. And I personally know some people from Serbia and Croatia. So, but I've seen many requests from Slovenia. I don't know if Bulgaria is considered part of the Balkans, but I checked Wikipedia, so it kind of is, or maybe isn't. But yeah, we do get requests from your countrymen and women, and they are interested in the services, but just want to give out a bit more information. Hopefully this will be helpful. And 95% of clients are foreigners, which means that 5% still are Estonians, and we do offer like accounting services and address services, consultations for our Estonian clients. But mostly the inquiries come in through e-residency, and they are foreigners usually. So Jan already went over what e-residency is, and I think I don't have to stop on it, but the general idea is that with e-residency card, you get access to the Estonian digital services. You will have a special Estonian ID code. It links all of the e-services that Estonia has. And through that, you will also have an access to the business registry, which is the most important thing if you want to open a company. But what e-residency is not, quite often when I deal with clients, they ask if I can now travel to Estonia or get a visa or residence permit. So it's not a document like that. It's definitely not a travel document nor a visa. But once you have the company registered, you do have a possibility to apply for a startup visa. I think actually regarding visas and residence permits, Kristi from the embassy in Budapest can give you the best advice how to proceed, which government agencies to contact. But nevertheless, if you're purely interested in opening a company and running it remotely, then this part actually don't concern you. You can just do your business from your home. And why should you choose Estonian company? Because there are almost 200 or more companies around the world, countries around the world. And then the countries compete with each other. And then Estonia, as Jan said, has one of the best indicators for business environments. This means that the bureaucracy generally is really low. And since the bureaucracy is low, it makes things much faster. You can open companies faster, makes changes faster. Contracts, reporting, everything is faster than on average around the world. Also, Estonian companies have this fintech access. So TransferWise, as mentioned, is an Estonian unicorn now called Wise, and One Office has partnership with them, so you can open Wise account also online a couple of days. So you can set up everything in 2 days basically, and start already doing your activities, providing services or products for your clients. As Novena mentioned, Estonia still is like part of big international organizations, which in turn will also make your company in Estonia credible. So Estonia is in NATO, in EU, and in a lot of other organizations. So although it's a small country, when you prove your company's registration, you have the documentation, then your maybe future clients, suppliers, or other partners are more favorable to you, because Estonia has made like a name for itself around the world due to this e-residency and digital governance. Another point, Estonia actually is a really good starting platform for startups and growing businesses. And this comes from the tax code that Estonia has. Basically, if you generate any profit for the company, it will not be taxed as long as you leave it in the company or reinvest it. We only tax the companies when the company's owner decides to actually take out the profit. Which does make sense, because why should you tax some company who maybe made €5 profit per year and didn't even take it out? So just applying tax every year, like most of the countries around the world do, seems unlogical for us in Estonia. And you, as an e-resident, can get the same benefit. But before you start, really important thing to do is the research, and then you listening is part of that research. You will get some guidelines from me, and you already got some from Jan and Nevena. But definitely think about your business plan and the way you're going to set it up. What can be the requirements or obligations once the company has been registered? Just think about everything, and that's why one office is here. Embassy can help you, and also e-residency team can help you. And also the community, Nevena, can help you if you have some questions that how did this work for you practically. I'm sure in Facebook groups you can ask questions, but the best maybe, or I would say the most trustworthy information will come from the embassy, one office, and also e-residency team. Then also part of your research should be, it seems like a small thing, but the company name, because you'll never know if the name that you had in mind has been taken. So if you have some domains already registered or something, then make sure that the second name that you want to give to the company is also not taken, and you at least have like 3 company names available. Because it's so often when I receive questions from clients, can I use this name because I already registered some domains or made some contracts with this name, and I'm saying that, sorry, this name is already taken or trademark protected, and there's nothing we could do. So a small thing, but still part of the research. The same about the field of activity. Just think what kind of activity you want to do. Although Estonian companies can basically do any activity they want. You mark the company as an e-commerce company, but you decide to actually provide consultations, you can do that. You don't have to change anything in the registry or notify the government. Just start your new activity and you're fine. Then also the share capital amount, I will go with that in more detail a bit later. And then of course taxes and other obligations, and I'll go over them later as well. So some of the legal aspects, as mentioned many times, it's simple and it's done in one day. You can use My One Office self-service kiosk or the lawyer's help that we have. Depends which way you prefer doing it. But the process itself is quite simple and straightforward once you have the e-residency card. And I do remind you that you have to have the card physically. Just ordering and being accepted to the program of e-residency is not sufficient. You have to have the physical card, because through that you will identify your signatures. And the responsibilities. Here's a four bullet point list, but I'll go over them in detail in next slides. So the contact person and address. Nevena mentioned it slightly. But the Estonian companies, even if they're owned by foreigners, they still need to have a local address. Local address is provided by one office, but since most likely you're going to live in the country you're currently living in, or maybe you're traveling around, but you're not located yourself in Estonia physically. This means that the management board or the management in general is outside of Estonia, and therefore your company will also need a contact person. And contact person basically does not have any obligations, but it's, I said it's slow bureaucracy in Estonia, but there is still some, and this is like one of the bureaucratic things that companies who are managed from outside of Estonia, they will need to have a contact person who makes sure that all of the government's emails or rulings, that everything reaches the management board. And this is also covered by one office, and also other licensed providers can usually offer this service. So it's quite standard that when you contact one office, then they'll say that your legal address and contact person fee will be this and that, and then this is like a yearly subscription or monthly subscription, depends on your needs. But these two things, legal address and contact person, they are as a package provided together usually. You don't have to ask it separately. And this is about it, about the address. So it's one of the obligations you'll have in Estonia, and you'll have to make sure that you always have a local address here in Estonia. Either you'll buy this service from a service provider like one office, or you locate some of your company into Estonia, rent an office, and you can then re-register your company to that office space actually. And even if you come and live here in Estonia, you can use your apartment or house address as the company address. So that's also a possibility for the future. Another obligation or a legal aspect is accounting and annual reporting. So accounting in general sense is mandatory, and what in specific is mandatory is the annual report. This is a financial report that every company in Estonia has to submit once per year. Even if there hasn't been any transactions, the company has stayed dormant in the sense that it hasn't done anything, then still the annual report has to be submitted. But obviously, the more transactions you had, the higher the price, and then the less, the lower. So if it's a dormant company and nothing has been done, then one office price is usually around 175 euros per year. So it's not expensive to actually maintain the company. You will have to have the address, and you will have to submit the annual report. These are two obligations in general that the companies have. But there are exceptions and other needs that different people have, and different companies. One thing is that when you want to apply for an Estonian V80 number, then you will have an obligation to basically report on that V80 number every month. Some countries it's quarterly, but in Estonia it's only available monthly. So you will need to have someone, most likely accountant, who submits the reports every month. And same applies for the employees. If you have Estonian employees, only Estonian, not foreign employees. Only if you have Estonian employees, then you also have to submit the salary declarations every month, and then you need monthly accounting. But there's another step. So as said, accounting is mandatory, and it has to be done at least once per year with the annual report. But if you expect a lot of transactions, a lot of activity, then it does make sense to divide the cost over the year per month. So you take this, all of the transactions, you say to us how many transactions you might have per month. We will calculate the fee, and then you pay this fee every month. And then we will know that the annual report will be 175 euros. Otherwise, it can happen that all of the accounting is done once before the annual report is actually submitted, and then the annual report fee can be high. So what you can do when you're searching for a service provider, ask them what is your annual obligations going to be money-wise, specifically the annual report, and then ask their guidance whether they recommend monthly option or yearly option. Because the yearly option is good for consultancy companies and companies who maybe have a couple of big clients who they invoice maybe a couple of times a year, in which case you have like low activity in a sense, accounting wise, transaction wise, and it doesn't make sense to have this monthly option. It makes sense to have yearly option, you will win money wise. But if you have a lot of activities, definitely look into the monthly accounting option. What else? So the share capital, as promised, this is many countries around the world actually have this option to defer the payment of share capital, and so does Estonia. So when you open the company, you don't have to pay in the share capital. Although it is necessary to pay in the share capital in order to get out the dividends from the company. So if your company has generated any profit and you decide that, okay, this profit is good, I will not reinvest it or do anything with it, I just want to take it out as an owner, then one of the requirements is to pay in this share capital minimum. This is 2,500 euros. Most of our clients use it, use the minimum amount, but some prefer to have it bigger. It depends on your needs again, but the minimum is 2,500 euros. But the good thing here is that, yes, you can postpone paying it for 5 years, for 10 years, basically forever, if you're never gonna take out the dividends. So in a sense, most of our clients, I would say, don't pay it in within the first year. They're gonna do it in the next year when they actually decide to take out the profits. And once you paid in the share capital, yes, you have to register it with the tax office and with the e-business environment, so 2 separate offices. But since it's all digital, then basically one move for the accountant or for you, and then the share capital has been registered. Then more complicated topic. There are many countries in the Balkans. First thing, when doing the research for this presentation, I searched for the tax treaties. And I noticed that Estonia has tax treaties with all of the Balkan countries except Albania, I think, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, one thing to look out or be part of your research is the tax treaty. So if you receive any income from the Estonian company as a private person or as a company owner, so meaning as an employee of the company, you can be the employee of the company and receive salary every month. So look into the tax treaty. How has that been negotiated between your country and Estonia? And then you can figure out what are your tax obligations on the salary. But same applies for the dividends. And then basically what it means is that first thing to do is check your tax residency. If you're a tax resident in Serbia or Slovenia, then you have to look for the tax treaty between Estonia, Slovenia, or Estonia, Serbia, respectively. If you're moving around, because e-residency is used by a lot of digital nomads and people who travel. So if you're moving around and your tax residency changes, so does your tax obligations. But yeah, this is like, we could speak more and more about this topic, but just check out the tax treaty between Estonia and your country. And that's a starting point to think of your tax obligations. Obviously, taxes have to be paid somewhere. One tax that has to be paid in Estonia is the dividend tax, which I already covered, and also Jan. But again, the other taxes that might have to be paid is the income tax, your personal income tax in your home country. Again, related to your tax residency and with your tax treaty. But the third tax is the V80 tax. And this is kind of, it's a tricky thing because if you as a company buy services from another EU company, then they basically issue an invoice with the V80 tax on it. So you're, in a sense, paying the V80 tax for that company who invoiced you. But you can use this system, the V80 taxation in EU in your favor by having an Estonian tax number or VAT number, or by having German VAT number. So your Estonian company can have several VAT numbers, although I recommend having one, but those VAT registrations can be in different countries. But let's take the most common situation where you apply for the Estonian VAT number. In that way, if a foreign company in EU invoices you and the invoice has the VAT on it, and your company in Estonia has a VAT number, then you can say to your supplier or your partner who invoiced you just now, say to him that, hey, you have the VAT number here in Estonia, and please reduct or take the VAT amount away from that invoice, because that's how the EU VAT system works. If both companies from different countries have VAT numbers in those countries, then between each other, they invoice without VAT. So again, this is like big topic put together shortly, but VAT taxation is something to consider. But in general, actually, once you've opened the company, you don't have to apply for the VAT number. You have the obligation once you reach the 40,000 euro turnover. And this turnover actually resets once the calendar year has ended. So if 1 year your turnover is below 40,000 euros, you are not obligated to have the VAT number. So taxes, yeah, complicated, but I hope you'll give me some questions in the questions and answers section, because when there's some like really specific question, then I can answer and maybe be more specific. But since there are so many countries involved in the Balkan webinar, then it's quite impossible to go into more detail in this kind of format. But I hope that at least you will get some insight how to start your research on the taxes. Maybe first thing, just contact me after the webinar and we'll talk about them. But I just wanted to go over a bit like the business types that you can have in Estonia. And you can have like a digital service type of company, or you can have a company that sells actual physical goods. And then with digital services, it's actually quite easy. There are no big exceptions. You can have clients everywhere. Your company, it's a bit easier. But if you're selling physical goods or you're doing some kind of e-commerce, then there are some additional things to consider. For example, if you do e-commerce and you have a warehouse somewhere, then this quite often triggers the country where the warehouse is located. So let's take Amazon. If you have Amazon business, then if you have a warehouse with Amazon in Germany, then automatically you have to apply for a VAT number in Germany. Same applies if you use Amazon warehouses in other countries. But even if you're not doing Amazon, if you're doing something else, and then you have like a certain amount of stock or a certain value of stock in the warehouse in, for example, United Kingdom or France, then what you'll need to do is before actually sending your goods into that warehouse, you should contact somebody local, their accountant or tax advisor, who knows what has to be done taxes wise or like reporting wise if you have that warehouse. It might be that you don't have to do anything, but it's just something to consider, because e-commerce has been really popular, and therefore I think it's worth a mention. Also, Croatians and Bulgarians get access to Amazon FBA and Amazon in general. Other countries in the Balkans currently are not covered by Amazon. So for you, we recommend Shopify. This is like for everybody in the world, basically. Shopify does not have any restrictions, but also I looked into eBay and Etsy, so that's available for you there. But there are other like platforms or systems that could make your e-commerce business simpler, like WooCommerce. Just wanted to let you know that e-commerce is a possibility for you if you're interested in it. And yeah, be aware of your VAT obligations in other countries. That's also part of e-commerce and selling physical goods. If you sell your physical goods permanently to another company, not in Estonia, then you might have like a VAT obligation in that country. And it makes sense to know that beforehand, not learn it afterwards. So that's my recommendation. But if you have like a specific plan in mind, go ahead, contact me later after this webinar. Tax benefits, some of them we already went over. So the corporate tax itself is 20%, but this is only applied if you decide to take out the profit. If you keep the money in the company, it stays there. And keeping the money in the company, I mean in the company's bank account, for example, TransferWise account, Wise account, then you will not be taxed. But as soon as you take it out for you as a owner of the company, then it's 20% tax. And this is actually really good for growing companies because for several years in a row, you can keep the profit in the company's bank account, and you don't have to worry that some government agency will come and take that money. Just reinvest it into your stock or into the equipment that you use to do your business. Or alternatively, you can also invest in stocks or even crypto. It's your and your company's money or profit. Rather say that way, it's your company's profit. So with the profit, you can basically do whatever you want. As long as you're not taking it out for yourself, it's not going to be taxed. Tax benefits also are really good for digital nomads. So if you go to and live in a country where the personal taxes and the corporate taxes are really low, for example, Singapore or Bali in Indonesia, then since your tax residency will be in that country, then your personal taxes, salary taxes, and also the dividend income that you receive while being a tax resident of Singapore, for example, then those taxes will be like lower than maybe in Serbia or if you live in Germany or wherever you might be living. So if your business goes well, you might consider moving to another country where the personal taxes are better. You can get the best tax benefits if you come and live in Estonia, because the income your corporation earns or the company earns, it's going to be taxed only once with the 20% of tax. As a private person, you will not be taxed double on it. I know many countries tax the corporation separately, and then when you as an owner, as a private person, get that money, then they will tax you as a private person as well, which is quite heavy. So the business has to be with high margins to actually work. In Estonia, you maybe can test out some lower margin companies. And that's it. Just bring your company physically to Estonia, rent an office, and you can also get better tax benefits if you have employees and maybe yourself here in Estonia. The steps already been covered. Apply for the card, contact one office, register the company with one office, open the bank account with Wise or Payoneer or with any other fintech solutions. They are the fastest, and then you can start business activities. But if you need like a traditional bank account, then still start with an online bank, and then you can already start the business. But on the side, you can work with some banks, perhaps LHV in Estonia, or maybe banks in your home country to get the traditional bank account for your company, because you might want to get some loan in the future or something like that. But again, depends on your situation and what you see is necessary for your company. And why one office? Well, already mentioned some of the prices here, but the general logic is that we don't want to have any hidden fees, because it's all digital. We speak mostly over emails. Of course, we have calls, team chats, Skype calls, but still to keep the trust up, we have the approach that we don't have any hidden fees. So if you want to have your like yearly forecast of the fees, then we can give that to you. Of course, if the situation changes in the future, the fees can change as well, especially accounting and annual report prices. But overall, we'll try to give you as honest estimation as possible. The incorporation and legal address fees are already in place, and those will not change for you ever. Also, one office supports multiple business types, and then you can have many founders. You can have a company as a founder. You can have 5 founders as private persons, 5 companies as founders. So that's all possible if you want to do it. We also allow most business activities. The only things that we do try to avoid is crypto, but that's also possible if it's all thought through. But overall, everything that's legal, we can offer you the support. Also, if you want to move to with your Estonian company, want to start something in Finland, Sweden, Latvia, Lithuania, or even the UK, then we have that international experience. We even have experience in Germany, so we can help with the VAT registrations and accounting in Germany. So you can get not only help in Estonia, but also in other countries. And the final thing, my one office platform, which we just launched, This is maybe something that we're most proud of. When you register the company, then you will see most of your company's data, all of your subscription with one office, obligations, calendars, accounting. You can all see everything in this My One Office platform in one environment. That it's also available for a mobile phone. So basically, you can run your company from the phone. You can see your past communication with the support. You can get easy and free access to knowledge base. And next week, hopefully it's already in testing phase, you will also have additional contracts in My One Office, which means that those are actually international contracts, employee contracts, NDA contracts, all different kinds of contracts that can be useful for your business. So definitely keep your eye open, and then you can already register a user for My One Office for free, but you will need to have a company to actually get the full experience of My One Office. But it's something that nobody in Estonia yet has, and it's constantly developing. It's quite new, like half a year. So we try to build it bigger and bigger and bigger and be more useful for you as a client. And here is the standard setup cost. So as mentioned, you need to pay for the legal address, and this is usually a yearly subscription, although we do offer monthly subscription as well, but yearly is cheaper. And this is 290 euros per year. So a recurring cost, every year you renew it. And it's also part of the setup cost. But the state fee and legal fee to actually open the company is 265 euros, which means that for 555 euros, you can open a company, then register your bank account, and you can start your activities. And maybe depends again on your situation, but more often than not, your next obligation will be next year to submit the annual report and to renew the legal address. But of course, if you take the 65 euro monthly package for accounting, then your annual costs will be bigger. But again, I would rather speak with you separately, or ask my colleagues to speak with you separately. Is your monthly accounting really needed? Should we keep it annual based accounting? So the pricing on like annual costs will differ for each one of you. And now let's go to questions and answers. Sorry for being so long. Here are a couple of my details and my team's details. Take a screenshot or write them down, and then please contact us if you need any help. I hope this was helpful for you, and then thank you all.
Thank you, Dennis. As promised, we would now take your questions that we've received in the Q&A section first. Before going to these questions, I would just tell you the results of the poll we had. One person has responded yes to the question, do you already have an Estonian company? I'm wondering, was it Nevena, or is there anyone else who is having the company? And 44 has responded no. Anyway, there is still a possibility ahead of us. Secondly, me as the representative of Estonian government and the state of Estonia, I of course have to mention here that although one office is one company that is really, I think, focused on consulting E-residents, there are also several other companies, and it's not obligation at all to do it through the consultancy. You can do it also on your own, but of course, if you need, there are always people who would help you. So going to the question, I first pick those two which are to be responded by myself. This is about picking up the cards still. No, there is no possibility that those cards would be sent by post, or that we would open offices, special offices for receiving those cards, because fingerprints have to be taken as with a normal document application, and therefore it's only done by the embassy. But anyway, if you apply for the card and you're not able to pick it up immediately, it's not a problem. We will just keep it until you can make this appointment and come to up. So there were several questions about the presentations. I believe that we, as a normal practice, would send them to all the participants afterwards, and you can also get the contact details of both one office and Jan Heinzo from these. So I would now go to, there are of course as always several questions about taxation. First one, Serbia has this double taxation agreement with Estonia, and we've got a question about were there instances of Serbian tax authorities requesting data about businesses of their citizens who are Estonian residents and do business through Estonia-based company? And what kind of access Serbian authorities can have to this data? I'm not sure if anyone can say.
I'll just mention this, that the tax authorities in Estonia and Serbia, they can cooperate. But the likeliness that somebody is asking some information from Estonia, it's quite low. We've had a couple of cases with closer neighbors, you know, Latvia, Finland, Sweden, and then we do know such cases. But as said, we have 4,000 companies, and I've not heard anything else other than the closest neighbors, from closest neighboring people. So Serbia, Estonia, I cannot say that it will not happen, because it can happen, but just haven't had the experience. Maybe Jan, or actually Kristi from the embassy, have you had such experience that you had needed to do some research about, I don't know, Slovenian customer or somebody?
No, I believe the tax authorities maybe contact directly if needed.
Yeah, most likely, and just for the person who asked, consider that they will contact each other if there is like a big problem. That's always the healthy look at things. So they might.
Okay, there is a group of questions that I would take together now. Can you establish several companies in Estonia? I believe the answer is yes. May I open a company in Estonia, or establish a company in Estonia whose activities are actually mostly in another European country? I think it's also yes. Of course, the company can be established in Estonia, but have the activities elsewhere. Is it also accessible to non-EU citizens? Of course, it's accessible, and it's very much actually appreciated, especially, and this seminar especially is also dedicated to non-EU residents, mostly because the Western Balkans is not in the EU yet. And of course, all citizens of any country can apply for it. Also, there was a question about can you still apply for e-residency, because there have been some news about that it was ended in 2020. No, it's not ended, and my knowledge, but Jan of course can correct me, there is actually no time limit for this program. Now, maybe in the beginning there was an idea that let's have this pilot for a couple of years, but it's ongoing.
Of course.
Yeah.
So maybe I now go to the questions about taxes, because there are several. First, it's really not about taxes, but expenses. What is the total expense of forming full online business in Estonia? I believe you mentioned cost if someone would decide to use your assistance, which is the cost in that case, but just purely establishing the company, the state, I believe, is the only one. Or
yeah, that's correct, Christian. And actually, everybody basically can open the company themselves online. Although the online environment still, it's more for an Estonian or a local person, so it's not customized for foreigners, and that's why the service providers are so important. But if you want to do it alone, you can do it. It's 190 euros. The only obstacle, in a sense, you'll have is getting a local address. But I mean, you can. That is a service that you can get from different service providers. So it was mentioned, but of course, one-off is not the only one, and we always recommend exploring around what are the options, what's the differences between service providers. But the best way to do it is go to E-Residency webpage and find the marketplace there. So that's also a starting point.
Yes, sure. And then another very concrete question about, is paying freelancers from the company account considered as a reinvestment?
Yes, I think that
the taxation, as you mentioned, is connected also somehow to reinvestment.
I think this is yes, connected to the slide where I showed that the reinvested or retained profits of the company have 0% corporate income tax. So if you're paying freelancers from the company account, I think that the money is gone. So in that sense, I think that it is not reinvested or retained. The money in that sense is already spent. So in that sense, I think that we don't have this question here. But the money can be either you can buy something for it, but you can just keep it in the company, and then it is not considered as taxable profit that you would tax in other countries every year in the end of the financial year. In Estonia, it is not taxed every year in the end of the financial year, only when you take dividends. But of course, when you have already made expenses and spent the money, I think that in any country that is not considered part of the profit or to be taxed. I think maybe Tõnis can also.
Yeah, actually, Jan, you're absolutely correct, and in a sense, the money is gone and it's your business expense. But why I raised my hand is because maybe Navena can help me out, but because she's really doing some business. But what is or who is a freelancer? So is it a person who doesn't have any like official company, or is it a company? So that's the real question, and that's where the taxation comes in. If the freelancer is a random person from a random country, and you make him like recurring payments, then this can be considered as a salary, and then you have to consider those salary taxes. So, but if a freelancer is some kind of sole proprietorship company or just a company, your freelancer can be a company owner in Estonia. For example, one person having like, I don't know, digital design company here in Estonia and does provide the service for you. In that sense, you don't have to worry about taxation because this company issued an invoice for you and this is your business expense. So the question rather is like, what is freelancer in your mind?
Then there was one quite general question. Is this program also open for non-businesses? Is it only for business people or also for others? Actually, it's open for everybody. You don't have to be a business person, but normally it's just for businesses who gain the most from this e-residency. But I think when you are applying, you are also asked for the reason, but the reason can be anything. I don't think that there will be any reason for based on which you would be refused to give this card. So I had the next question about that.
Navena also wants to speak.
Yeah, I just wanted to clear out what you said about recurring payments to freelancers. So let's say I hire, this is more of a question because I understand where the question is coming from. And if you give them an answer, I think they're going to be in the clear. So let's say I'm paying someone repeatedly each month the same amount from my Estonian e-residency to an account in Serbia. When you say that I'm accountable for salary taxation, you're not talking about Estonia, but Serbia, right?
Correct. And actually, these kind of things, more often than not, has to be investigated from the country where the employee or freelancer is from. Because there are many countries, Estonia is not one of them, but many countries allow the employees themselves to take care of the taxation. So if you hire some freelancers, then maybe hire them from a country where they are responsible for their own salary taxation. That way you are not liable for that.
Yes, so as a company registered in Estonia, I can pay out a private person. I can make those payments, and I'm not accountable to pay any taxes upon that, but the person himself should take care of it. All right.
Absolutely.
So that's one of the things I wanted to clear out. And the second thing, as for the in Estonia, because they're working remotely with a company in, let's say, US, and their biggest concern is how they're gonna if they pay out their dividends to themselves and then transfer the money to, let's say, Serbia, I will have to pay my income taxes in Serbia as well. So from my experience, once I pay out 20% of dividends tax in Estonia, and I give some evidence that I've paid that out, I need to pay 5% upon the amount in Serbia as well. So the roughly it's 25% of taxation between Serbia and Estonia because of the double taxation agreement. So
exactly.
That's my experience. Yeah,
that's really good, and that's nice to hear. Because looking into double taxation agreements, I did take a look at them. They are, in a sense, it's easy to read, but if you really want to go into detail and understand what's happening, then tax expert is good. But the general logic is that you take like the general income tax that you have in Serbia, and you then deduct the 20% of Estonia. So that's kind of the logic. But in the double taxation treaty, it might be marked differently. So
yeah. It's really important to talk to your tax inspector in Serbia before filling out anything or moving money from Estonia to Serbia, just to make sure that it's, in my case, it's like that. It's not, it may be differently for you. And another thing to understand is that you don't pay 20% of taxes before you pay out yourself any money. So you don't pay repeatedly 20% upon the money you make, because I've seen that question and I got the question before. So yeah.
Yes, I think that there are some related questions later here. For example, how and why are we paying income tax 20% and social security tax 33% as individuals when we are not real residents? Or it means that we get a pension and other security benefits from Estonia. If no, please explain. So basically, this was about payroll taxes. So if you hire someone who is eligible to pay payroll taxes in Estonia from their salary, if you pay salary, then these are the taxes. I think that Tõnis maybe can explain further, but as an e-resident, e-residency doesn't actually change your tax residency by default. Your company may become an Estonian tax resident, or it may have dual tax residency, but you as a person definitely don't have to start paying personal income tax and social security tax as an e-resident. So maybe Tõnis can elaborate more also on this.
Yeah. So definitely the payroll taxes apply only if you move to Estonia and you are tax resident here in Estonia. So if you pay a salary from the company to yourself and you're here in Estonia, tax resident of Estonia, then those apply to you. But if you're still in your home country, then the home country's tax residency will apply for you, and social security and payroll taxes will have to be paid there if you decide to pay a salary for yourself at all. Because it's quite smart to organize things the way that you maybe pay out dividends twice a year, which are taxed lower. An option. Business people in Estonia quite often do that way, and then they'll maybe, it's also a good way to start like a business on a side on your day job. So you have this small business here in Estonia, you accumulate the profits once per year, you pay them out. You don't have to worry about salaries or anything. And your real employer in Serbia, the day work that you do, they will pay your salary and salary taxes and all of your social security. So another option. But just, yeah, consider that if you have an employee, then the employee taxes are paid according to the rules where the employee is working from.
Yes, and if you hire an employee in Estonia, then these payroll taxes will apply, which were mentioned. And maybe I think that one more question from Manuel: what business-related expenses, if any, are accepted or not accepted? So I think that there is also. So where can I review Estonian tax authority's definition of a valid business expense? I think this is also another side of this question, that if you, for example, are making business expenses which are in fact hidden distributions of profits, then they will be treated as dividends eventually if the tax authorities will catch out and find out. But what are the valid business-related expenses?
I'll just, yeah, there's actually a term for it in English. In Estonia, it's long word, but in English, it's fringe benefits. And it basically means that you have done expenses that are no way justifiable with your business activity. But so basically, if you get payments from clients, you do consulting, you do e-commerce, all with one company, all allowed, and all of the payments you get in are related to that. And now you do expenses that are also related to that, maybe shipping, maybe some kind of, I don't know, warehouse expenses and so on. But then out of the sudden, you have some kind of hotel bill or airplane bill. Then it's your job to prove to the tax authorities of Estonia whether it was business related or whether it was not. If you're doing random grocery shopping, then it's quite hard to justify. But the hotel bills and travel bills, if you're like, I don't know, public speaker, then you can justify them. So it's all, there is no list where you can see what are valid business expenses. It's just a matter, it's just common sense. If it's related to your business, then it's a business expense.
What about team building events?
Team building events. Again, if you, they can be considered fringe benefits if you've not done them before. But if you're doing them on a recurring basis, you have meeting minutes, then you can submit the meeting minutes with your annual report. Basically, everything boils down to the annual report. When your accountant does the annual report, they will ask your bank statements. Then they will look, oh, here is some kind of weird payment. What is this? Do you have invoices for that? And do you have some kind of documentation showing that it's related to your business activity? So definitely team building events can happen. One office does like summer events and stuff. It is a business expense, but maybe, yeah, just talk with your accountant before you do that, or make sure that everything is recorded, that it really was a team building event. Just be prepared, be thorough, and check that you have all the documents that are related to that event.
So another tax-related, very concrete question about registering yourself as VAT. What do you call it? For VAT, is this 40,000 euros within last 12 months or calendar year?
Calendar year, but I say calendar year because when you open a company, you actually have the choice to choose your financial year. So you can start your financial year from 1st of September. But 99.9% of our clients, and I think all of the service providers' clients, they by default choose or add this calendar year, because that is much more easier to manage. You know when your annual reports are due. You also know the VAT turnover that you asked about. If your company is using a calendar year as a financial year, then that's what is considered. So let's say your company is registered on 21st of April 2021. So your calendar year actually started from the 1st of January, which means that you now have until the end of this year to reach that 40,000 euro threshold. If you reach it, you have to apply for the VAT number. If you don't, the clock resets again in a sense, and from 1st of January next year, it starts again. So it's just take the calendar year as a default. But again, if you have some special needs, we can make your financial year different than the calendar year.
So can I register my existing e-commerce business running in Pakistan as an extension in Estonia to sell physical goods without having office in Estonia through distributor and or logistic companies? And also from the same participant, another question, can a sole proprietor apply for e-residency?
Yeah, I see that. Just some of the question was missing. I didn't hear, but let me quickly read it through. Yes. So if you have an existing e-commerce business, then yes, you can register the company in Estonia, and you can. What you have to do is you have to transfer the assets of your existing e-commerce business to your Estonian business. If you're the sole owner of your current business, an Estonian business, you might want to compose some kind of contract for the authorities, but you're not obligated to do it. But if your current e-commerce business or the future Estonian e-commerce business has other people in it, then definitely a contract is needed that these assets from this Pakistani business are transferred now to Estonian business. So you have to do some kind of contract. That's the only thing to consider. So you would be legally sound to actually sell those things via Estonian company. But with Pakistanis, the problem here is that we've seen a lot of interest. But for example, one of his, well, we have the expertise, but the problem here is with EU KYC AML rules. And this means that if we take you as a client, Hussein, then it means that we need to fill a lot of additional documents, and this can increase the incorporation costs a lot for you. So we generally take the approach that we don't offer services to high-risk country residents for Pakistani residents, which is unfortunate because we have a lot of interest from there. But just the EU KYC rules or AML rules are so harsh that we just it brings the costs here. Although Estonian costs are really low, then if we would need to follow when taking you as a client, follow all of those rules, it's going to be really costly for you. But again, check the e-residency marketplace, contact those companies there. I don't know all of the marketplace companies, so some of them might offer you services with like a reasonable price and can actually ensure that they fulfill all of the EU rules when taking you as a client. And can somebody help me to pronounce this word, because I've not learned it yet. Lena, you have good English. Do you know how is sole proprietor?
Sole proprietor.
Thanks.
Oh,
It's quite easy. Okay. It is possible. In Estonia, it's called FIE. It's FIE, but it's not recommended because limited liability company that we're going to open for you with e-residency has transparent tax system. It doesn't have any additional obligations other than we just discussed today. The taxation is much better. The reporting is much better for limited liability company. So if you choose to have this FIA, this sole proprietor, then it's going to be more difficult for you. Always go for this limited liability company. The easiest way to go with the company in Estonia.
Nevena, you wanted to add something?
No, I just gave him the thumbs up for the sole proprietor.
Okay, so thank you so much, everybody, for speaking today. Thank you to all the participants who so actively asked questions. I just see one more question, which is actually quite specific area of a company, but I believe that actually this e-residency is not connected by any means just to one type of activities or one type of company. Basically, you can just become an e-resident and after that explore, or before that, to explore different forms of companies, different possibilities for doing business in Estonia. Everything is possible, so it's not limited to some type of companies only. But of course, maybe it was because so many speakers today covered e-commerce, IT businesses, freelancers, because for them this remote working or working from another country doing business remotely is so much more relevant. It's not definitely limited to that. So I just encourage, if anyone has any more specific questions, you can contact one office or find information through the embassy, through the Enterprise Estonia e-residency team, and just follow up with us directly if you need anything. Thank you once more, and hope to see you in Estonia soon. And all the best, and stay safe and healthy. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.